So any Ambazonian who is listening to CDN should know that they're listening to the enemy. They're not listening to friends. Now, part of Ambazonian defending themselves is also part of dealing with the Ambazonians that are offering themselves to be used by these Western manipulators, by these Western colonizers. Okay, and let me start with CDN, because because CDN is the organization that has that goes around doing the dirty work of this one Cameroon supporters. Now, CDN, who is CDN? Before the Ambazonian crisis, you did not hear of CDN. And then when the Southern Cameroon crisis, or when the Ambazonian crisis started, then CDN organized itself. In fact, I've been talking with people who said that on the onset, they didn't even know what they were doing, but they know that they need to be created. And so they were created, and then they were learning on the job. And now they are a coalition for dialogue and negotiation. Who asked you to come and be dialoguing and negotiating for Ambazonians? Ambazonians can negotiate for themselves. So that's an organization which it is sponsored by the One Cameroon people, and they have avoided the. I think they've been funded, and they've been and so they know their mandate is to bring people to these One Cameroon countries and organizations to use in order to placard, in order to create a smoke screen in the Ambazonian thing and continue the colonization. Is it going to work? No. It's not going to work. And how do you know that these CDN people are against Ambazonian interests? Because these are people who float freely in and out of Cameroon. You cannot go to Cameroon. Many Ambazonians cannot just go to Cameroon and start doing the kinds of things they're doing, form foundations there. You can't. And they have actually verbalized. They have actually spoken that here are some of the people sponsoring us, and all of the people that they have named have been One Cameroon people, or One Cameroon organizations, or One Cameroon countries. I'm trying not to go into detail now, but let them challenge it, and then we'll bring out the proofs. So any Ambazonian who is listening to CDN should know that they're listening to the enemy. They're not listening to friends. They are not out to solve any problems. And so what they've very quietly doing in order to earn whatever the One Cameroon forces are giving them, they've gone and gathered. If you hear the list of the people who were in Canada,
they go gather some people, most of them unqualified. Not even most. 99% of them unqualified. We had nursing assistants. We had gym trainers or bodybuilders. We had people where they need to work. No academic or pedigree qualification. School dropouts. We had business people where they did not even know or are not masters of the ABCs.
You just know that these are the people that Ambazonians despise.
And then they deliberately leave out and block people where they know how these things work.
And so basically, if you ask me, I'll say what CDN is doing is that they are malpracticing against Ambazonians and malpracticing against the people sponsoring them, because they've gathered this chunk, these sideshow operators, and they've presented them to the people sponsoring them and say these are the people to negotiate with. No, they're not. I heard that, I think there's a video, there's an audio from the Ground Zero forces coming out.
We have seen a purported write-up talking about a successful meeting in Canada, calling for a ceasefire signed by AGOVC, APLC, and ACT. APLC says it is dead on arrival. APLC is the only body to implement visions on the ground. La République and its military are those attacking us. They are the ones entering into our communities and killing our people. We are merely defending ourselves. Yes, we are. So La République should be the one to cease fire and release all of our brothers and sisters who have been arrested in connection with the war declared on us by Mr. Pobia.
CDN is acting like the kingpin, going around gathering these people, talking to them by the side. I will tell you, there's an organization, I think it's AGOVC. It's an organization that is totally despised on the ground as people who, first of all, if you just look at their activities objectively, you will know that these are not people working on behalf of Ambazonia, because nobody working for the success of Ambazonia will go into Nigeria and start creating enmity with the Nigerian state by claiming that you want to form an alliance with Biafra. Nigeria fought a war to stop Biafra. And then you want to go and form an alliance with them? Yeah, you're just telling Nigeria, come and shoot Ambazonia and forget about Ambazonia. Okay? The status of Biafra is not even the status of Ambazonia. Ambazonia is a legal international entity that is fighting for what by international law is theirs, which was corrupted in the process. And now you want to lower Ambazonia into a Biafra and start forming a coalition with them. You cannot be doing that in the interest of Ambazonia. You cannot be kidnapping on the ground and doing all kinds of things, and nobody actually sees you fighting. A lot of people have said that they cannot really point a battle where so-called AGOVC fought against the forces of La République du Cameroun. They can't. These are the kinds of people that CDN goes and court, and obviously because these people are more after some interest that is not an Ambazonian interest, they will go and see CDN. They will go and they will meet with CDN, and then they go to Canada, and then they go there and start. I heard that they actually were so powerful that they will prevent other people who are even more legitimate or who can speak on behalf of Ambazonia from getting into the hall. And that was okay. It's a joke. It's a joke. But like I've said, Ambazonia cannot prevent all of this from happening, because all of these are independent actors. They do what they want. Ambazonia's responsibility is to create a deterrent for them not to come and act freely where Ambazonia's interest is involved. Like what the fighters on the ground are doing. The fighters on the ground have made it so that Cameroon cannot come into Ambazonia and act as freely as though it is a legitimate government there. No. These days, they come in and they in bulletproof under over 100 degrees tropical sun. They hide around. They disguise themselves. They come in like thieves now, like the thieves they are. But is that enough to free Ambazonia? I'll say no. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. In fact, Ambazonia has never been organized to actually free the land, which is why, even though there are strong sentiments for the place to be freed, it has never been freed. We have never succeeded. Let's start from Let's start from 1954 when we left, when Ambazonians left Nigeria and formed their own semi-autonomous state. So KNC, which was the original Ndeli party, was obviously the first government formed in Ambazonia. You can say at the time they really did not. They were not facing the challenges that Foncha's party then faced. Foncha's KNDP was not a legitimate it was not therefore a legitimate Ambazonian interest. In fact, Foncha would tell you that he was a member of KNC and he formed KNDP in opposition to Ambazonia, or in opposition to KNC in London, making an announcement over the radio that they were not going to join La République du Cameroun. Foncha did not like that because he wanted the Ambazonia to join Cameroon, even though it was a foreign country. They spoke French. Ambazonia has absolutely no history with them, because after the Germans were gone, those two territories were separated and they grew separately. One was French with their Napoleonic command law, and Ambazonians were under the British with their common law, with freedoms that did not exist in the Cameroon territory. But Foncha was sponsored by a Sopo-Priso. And I asked Foncha in a question, I said, what was so important that even with the raging war, with what the French were doing to the people in Cameroon, why did you think we should be part of them? He said, oh, that's what we all agreed during the German times, that, we will come back together. Really? No. He was being sponsored. And when the UPC people came across the border, Foncha formed a union with them. And it is that union, when Foncha became prime minister, that triggered the British and those who were afraid of communism to say, okay, with that, we're not going to give you independence, because if we give you independence, you come under the communist influence and Nkrumah's influence. Because at the time, Nkrumah was looking for help from the Eastern Bloc countries. In fact, Nkrumah was overthrown when he was in the Eastern Bloc. He had traveled to the Eastern Bloc. So KNDP was never an organization that was out for the interests of Ambazonia and Ambazonia alone. No, it wasn't. So that was a political party that was well grounded, but it served a foreign interest. In fact, if you read a lot of books that talk about the Foncha regime after Fumban, because immediately after Fumban, Ahidjo took over the Dios. And when you take the Dios, it means you've taken over the administration of the territory. Foncha wrote and complained. And you've taken the Dios from me. He did not complain that you have taken over the government of Southern Cameroon, the name at the time. No, he complained that I'm not getting security reports. And he just said, oh, so you're not worried that I've taken over the government, that I've federalized the DOs and they're reporting to me instead? You're not worried about that. You're worried about security reports. So he basically told the DOs, continue to listen to me and just give them copies of the security bulletins. The only thing Foncha was happy with was that he kept the police. And that was that's the only thing he controlled in the southern Cameroon from 1961 until when the whole place was taken over. So you see that was not an Ambazonian organization, an Ambazonian government taking care of Ambazonian business. It wasn't. Now we're going to skip the other people because after that it was Muna who took over, who was a sellout. He was a sellout. He was with the Ahidjo came and overthrew Joa, who took over from Foncha when Foncha became the prime minister, which is just a manipulation to became the vice president. I'm sorry, which is a manipulation to get Foncha out of the place so that they can, start the whole colonization process. And the Brahmuna became prime minister, so he was totally a French implantation. Now, fast forward to Frundi, because that's the other organization. The reason I'm stopping, I want to see whether I should talk about Gojitinka first before I talk of Frundi. But Frundi is the one political party that was formed by an indigenous citizen, and he started okay. But the focus wasn't there. And shortly after that, they caved in to the forces, to the colonial forces. And today you know what Frundi is doing. You know where he lives. SCNC came and had the potential. There were other smaller organizations like the SCNC and the Southern Cameroon People's Organization. Some of those organizations came, they had the potential, but they never really formed themselves to become a force. SCNC went far enough, but it never really became the organization that it could be. Okay? It never became the organization that it could be. And therefore, it never really accomplished anything. But structurally, it was correct. Because in order to win this fight, you need special people who are dedicated, who are voluntary, who belong to a movement, a control movement, an organized, institutionalized movement, where there's a chain of command, there's a budget, it needs an organization like the ANC. So NCNC was, SDF was that, not SDF, SCNC was that organization, but it never really took root. They did a great job, they tried. But I think they did not have the spirit of what the fighters on the ground right now have, because that's how far SCNC should have gone. But they had this thing about force of argument and not the argument of force and all that. I don't want to characterize it, because I think they meant well. Now, let's move from the SCNC to the lawyers. The lawyers is another group that was well structured. It was a team of lawyers. They had their organization. They were members. They had a chain of command. They had everything that it takes. And with that organization, they now have a staying power, generation to generation if they wanted. And so they started asking their questions. They started organizing throughout the territory. And when La République or when Cameroon started fighting them, they were fighting them in Bamenda, in Mamfe, in Kumba, in Boya, all over the place. But the lawyers had a message. It's an organization. They had a structure, chain of command, and so they were good. They were disciplined. Same with the teachers' trade union. And you can see how it is through them, because of these organizations and how they are organized, that they created the revolution that we are fighting today. before I talk about the fighters on the ground, let me talk about what those who crossed over to Nigeria and stayed in Nigeria did. They did not do anything. Because they formed SCACUF, which ended up forming an interim government, which ended up sitting in Nigeria and appointing people worldwide that they did not know. And so the little bit of destabilization, it came crumbling down because there was no institution. What they had was a canopy without a stem and no roots. So it couldn't have gone anywhere. Because what you need a movement. You need an institution that is a movement. You cannot start forming a government when you don't have a country. When you have a country, then you can form a political party which becomes the institution that creates government. If you don't have a political party and a bunch of people just sit and say we are the government, then they don't even have people that they've grown within the party. There's no party discipline. There's nothing. So you just go out there and like, oh, I saw this guy on the internet. Can I make you my XYZ, my ambassador, my foreign minister, my DDD? You don't know them. You have no way of controlling them. And therefore, if you're not there, then they can readily say, hey, you know what? I'm not the president. And then if you're now in jail and say, I'm not the president anymore, then he says, shut up. I am not the president, you're in jail. In fact, because you're in jail, you're handicapped. No orders from jail. And then start, you know the rest of the story. Now, let's come down to the boys on the ground. The boys on the ground, before I go to the boys on the ground, so you see when Swiss now comes with all these canopies floating around with no stems and no roots and say, oh, you guys come for negotiations or whatever. Who are you inviting? You're inviting people from nobody knows where, and they come and sit down, and what they're doing is looking at each other, vying to. You remember the story where Mr. Dr. Neba Fontaine said, all that Republic du Cameroon did was sit in Cameroon, had their numbers, and call them and say, hey, you are the person I'm going to be working with, but don't tell anybody. Call the other and say, hey, you're the person we'll be negotiating with, but don't tell anybody. And so when the Swiss invites all these people who rush there, they're all thinking, you know what, it's me. All these other people, they don't know that Cameroon has told me that I'm the only person they'll be talking to. And each of them think that. And so you will never get an agreement between them to work together for the common good of Ambazonia. Because each of them, they are looking at themselves and they're like, I know I am the person they'll be negotiating with, so I have the key. I don't need anybody else. So this is just a motion we're going through, and so you can see why we are not even ready for any type of negotiations. We're not. With the structure given right now. Okay? Then the boys on the ground. The boys on the ground are the people who have the potential. They have the potential to form themselves into that institution that has a chain of command, that has some discipline, that has some messaging, that all of them can come together agree on, form their chain of command, and become that institution through which they can now say, we are going to negotiate. And when they go there, they know who is negotiating on whose behalf and if they're in trouble, who will be supporting them. They know what their system is. I'm going to tell you, in a conversation we had, and it's Barrister Boga who talked about a quote from Professor Obenson, say you cannot map a stable platform on an unstable platform. You cannot map a stable platform on an unstable platform. Okay? You cannot form governments that have no political party, through which the members of government are grown, through which party loyalties are developed, through which funding comes from its members to fund government activities or form campaign activities. Or you can't be a canopy without a stem and roots. Any wind that comes will blow you wherever. And the only other thing that will anchor that floating will be something that's stronger than that canopy coming. So right now, I hear some people say, oh, the conversation in Canada was just pre-talks. Pre-talks with who? Pre-talks with everybody who goes there and think, oh, if I've been invited, I must be important, and therefore I am the king now. No. You all are being played. Because if you were a serious organization, you will ask some questions before you even go to some pre-talks. You would decide whether should we even be participating in those pre-talks. Who is calling those pre-talks? Is that how other conflicts around the world have been handled? If you look at the way the Ambazonian situation is being handled, it's being handled like it's somebody's kitchen stuff. The Swiss just sit and say, you guys should come over and, let's talk. You find all these moles coming from wherever and they're flying there. Oh, if they've come here, I must be important. Oh, I must be important. And they go there and then, is this importance in there? They start worshiping the person who invited them. If he says, okay, what I'm going to tell you now, don't tell anybody else, then they go and shut their mouths. Everybody now has confidentiality with who? Canada? Canada is a sponsor of La République. Canada is a NATO ally of France. France owns Cameroon. They have cooperation agreements with them. Those cooperation agreements are live today. Those cooperation agreements say, until I say sell something from somebody else, you cannot try. Try, you are gone. Paul Biya knows that. Every other person who sells there knows that. When Paul Biya held his so-called national dialogue, he went to Paris and announced there that he's going to report. So it's not an independent country. Ambazonians are fighting for their independence. Colonization is a crime. Colonization is an efficient form of slavery. The Europeans themselves have said slavery is a crime against humanity. It is still being practiced today by the French, the most. And people are running around talking to French allies, and they think that they're negotiating, or that I won't tell you what they told me because no. So Ambazonians, we have a country to free. That country we need to start working together. in terms of building institutions. That needs to take place on ground zero by the fighters themselves. The fighters have a better sense of what is. They have a better sense of negotiate. You know what? Sometimes you hear people talk about negotiation as though it's some real complex things. No. Ambazonian, if you bring one of these Ambazonian fighters, they know exactly what they want. And when they come out with the term shake no day, it means until you talk about that core thing, they are not listening to you. And you're talking to them because they have their gun, they will never give it up. And so anybody who thinks they can go and negotiate a ceasefire, like one of them just said, if you sit in your house and somebody brings an armed robber comes in to rob your house, and then you pull your own gun and they say stand off. There's only one action to be taken. The thief should be arrested and taken out. You don't say, okay, declare ceasefire, drop your arms, don't be defending your home, and the armed robber who lives by the gun, you think he will drop his own arm? No, he will pretend. He just wants you to blink and he takes you out. And these boys on the ground know that. I was listening to someone say that the Cameroon army, members of the Cameroon army, the Cameroon army as an institution, is afraid to go into Ambazonia, into certain place, because they say it's suicide. For the first time in that country, the Cameroon army has met fighters who are ready to take them on and do what some of the videos have shown that they can do. So I think the thing here is that, and I'm just concluding here, there are corrupting influences in our struggle. Henry Atem and his CDN is a corrupting influence. They're working on behalf of foreigners. They're working on behalf of people who are against Ambazonian interests, and they have left. Their selling point with the foreigners is that, oh, I am an Ambazonian, I know how to get them and bring them to you. If they can take Gojidinka there, if they can take Barrister Bobga, if they can take certain people there, a core member of the Ambazonians, and they are actually given a chance to speak clearly, then if they can convince some of these people to go there, then I know, then they can actually start saying, you know what, I told you I can bring them. But you know what? The colonizer doesn't want those people, and CDN cannot get those people there. Because you know what? The colonizer know that those are not the people they want to work with. Colonizers, when they go to colonize, they want their Mumbutus. They don't want any Lumumbas. They don't want any Lumumbas. If they have a chance, they kill the Lumumbas. They ignore the Lumumbas, but they want their Mumbutus. So none of them will ever ask for Gojidinka to come. None of them will ever ask for Bobga to come. They will never ask for the real people to come. They will not. So those of you who are listening to Henry Atem, don't fall for his tricks. He is making money from those tricks. He is licensed by La République du Cameroun to do some of the things that he does. He goes into Ambazonia, into La République du Cameroun. He runs his non-profits there, all endorsed, because without the endorsement of the Cameroon government, you don't do that kind of business in Cameroon. You don't. So these are agents of the people killing the sick, burning villages, burning killing livestock, and killing Ambazonians en masse. They are the people perpetuating the genocide, and those are their agents coming to you. Henry Atem is one of them. Those people working with him, those people working with him, they are all opportunists. They are all in the diaspora, looking for what I don't know. They've been out of the place for decades. They should be living the life they're living here and helping the people on the ground fight their fight, because the more you talk to people on the ground, the more you understand that the Cameroon or the Ambazonia that people that some of these people left 40 years ago is not the same place. The boys on the ground, the fighters on the ground know the enemy very well. They know how to take care of them. They have instilled fear in them, and those are the people to liberate us. All they really need to do now is organize themselves well. And like I've told them before, there's a lot of money in the diaspora. They just need to organize themselves well and show that they are serious, and they will be supported to kick out the enemy. Because these people who are fighting, they don't have 4 heads and many more arms than the 2 arms. They're just human beings. Like I've told people many times, the Talibans or the people of Afghanistan have been able to kick out the Russians. I think they kicked out the British and other people before that, and recently America abandoned them and left. So Ambazonians, you, the freedom fighters on the ground right now, are the first ever in our history to claim your land, and people are beginning to respect that. You just need to organize a little more. You just need to organize a little more. Come together and have one chain of command. Have a chain of command, because you can't be in little factions. No, you need to have a chain of command and work together. Work together like a real organization. Because if the organization is very important. Take for example, if you have all-star players, all of them are star players. If you take them without organizing them, without having a central message, without an understanding between them, without knowing who is who in terms of strategy, they will go and lose to a mediocre team that's better organized. So organization is very important. And when you organize and you start winning, you will gain so many support, because everybody loves a winner. Everybody, and that's how you free Ambazonia, and you become the government of Ambazonia. Not people living somewhere else and you fighting and they think that they're your government. Stop all of them. Tikonedi drink kumba drunk. It will never happen, and I know you know that story well. But thanks for listening. I just wanted to come and share what I've been thinking, watching what's going on. Okay? We've been fooled once, we've been fooled twice, we'll not be fooled again. And trust me, there are people who are looking at that thing and they're not fooled. I know you're not fooled on ground zero. You are the only thing, you're the only reason why there was Swiss talks, there was national dialogue, there was bilingualism commission, now there's a Canada, whatever is going on there. All of them because of you and afraid of you. And they're looking for ways to stop you, to take your gun, to blindfold you. They've tried DDR, they've tried all kinds of things. Obviously, it did not work. And those who went to the DDR, they are disappointed. Where are the what's his name? He left and went and joined and became their spokesman. I remember he was in Kumba, trying to tell you to drop it. And where is he today? Shake, no day.